There's Alice.
I'm
Good
here.
morning, kids.
Hi, Alice.
Good morning. So today, well, I promised or threatened, depends on your attitude, but to play with our toes again. Play with our feet some more. And we'll see what that brings us. We'll see what that brings us. So, since we do need our feet and our toes to stand on, why don't we start in standing? Start in standing for a reference movement. Oh, and while you're standing, I'm just going to make this suggestion that since we will be doing crazy things with our toes and our fingers, you might want to take this opportunity while you are up to go and get your favorite body lotion. Go and get your favorite body lotion. I just got some that's rose scented, and I just keep putting it everywhere I can. So it'll make things easier. I think it might make things easier when we get to things like interlacing our digits. To have a little bit of lubrication there.
Coconut oil good?
Coconut, anything. Yeah, anything slippery. Anything slippery. If it smells nice, it's even better.
Olive oil works too.
Am I muted?
Yeah, apparently not, but I will take care of muting everyone.
I just wanted to tell you quickly, I had COVID toe.
You had COVID toe?
Yes, it's a condition that is now found to be occasionally after, rarely I guess, after vaccine.
What? So what happened, CD?
All 10 toes turned very purple, swollen, very, very sore about 3 weeks after the last vaccine. And then this whole business went away. It was bad for really just 1 or 2 nights when I couldn't sleep and couldn't walk, but then it was gone.
Is it gone now?
No, there's a little bit of residual TBI or bruising like stuff, but it baffled my doctor at first. And then she said, you know, new information is coming in. It's a side effect of the disease. You've probably heard of that. Now they're finding it, and I don't know how that can be if it's if it's a mRNA. I don't understand.
Well, yeah.
But anyway.
Wow. So
fine.
Okay, so go really, really, do what you can, as we know. Just do what you can.
It'll be great for my little toes.
I think it will, just to give them attention.
Yeah.
Just to give them some attention, because how much do we really pay attention to our toes, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you're of that certain, well, some people do get pedicures from, with regularity, and they have their feet look great in the summer in sandals. So, okay, we're on our feet, on your feet, on your feet.
We all sat down.
And
What is it?
let's check in. Thanks for telling us that, CD. More to look forward to, everyone who got the Pfizer. Hopefully not. So notice as you're standing there on your feet, if you were to shift more onto one foot, onto one leg, which direction did you choose to go first? And which of your feet, if you were to pause as you're over one side, and then take a reading, and then pause on the other side, which of your feet feels more confident about sustaining your weight or your balance? And how we keep our balance. Do your toes activate or not? Are they just kind of there? Or do your toes activate as you go from one foot to the other. And what is the source? What is the source of your shifting? That's an interesting question. What is the source of your shifting from side to side? And you might notice, as we've noticed before, that side to side might not mean exactly side to side. It might mean a little into one forefoot on one side, a little into the heel on the other. You can make note of these details. That one side you might grow taller on, the other you might sink more into yourself on. And then come to what you would call the middle, more or less. And could you raise yourself up onto your toes and lower yourself down? And notice, okay, what is the source of raising up onto your tiptoes? And if you need to stabilize yourself by placing your hand on the wall or a piece of furniture, please do that. So you come up onto your tiptoes and then you go back down. And we're lowering down slowly and coming up. And notice if you tend to go more towards the little toe on one side or the other, what you do with your toes as you raise up and what role your toes play as you come down. And then could you do that quickly? Just not slamming the heels down, not dropping, but just lower, 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 lower. And then come and lie down on your mats, on your place, on your couch, on your bed, whatever you've got there. And notice now the weight is off the feet. The weight is off the soles of the feet, unless for some reason you need to stand your feet or one leg. Just notice the freedom from pressure through your feet. And if you were to draw with your mind's eye, to trace around the outline of your right foot, could you do that? Maybe starting from the heel and going along the outer border of the foot and tracing around the little toe and even going in between the spaces in your mind. How well can you access each toe? Do you need to move it? This is interesting. Can you not even find the toe in your mind unless you move it? See how important movement is to the brain, how we can map ourselves. Go around each digit to the root where it joins the metatarsal and around to the tip of the toe. And down around the top of the big toe and the metatarsal, the inner arch of the foot, and around to the back of the heel. And then do the same on your left foot. Starting at the back of the heel, you trace as though you were drawing a finger along the outside of your foot, the outer border, around the tip of the pinky and down into the inside, swooping around to the fourth and then the middle toe, the toe next to the big toe, down and around and up the inside of the big toe and around the top and down. Do you have a callus there? Do you have a bunion? You go around. What's the shape of your foot in your mind? Tracing around it with an imaginary finger till you end on the point behind the heel. And then sense your feet. Again, sense your feet. And then, excuse me, can you come to sit with one foot wrapped behind you and one foot in front, one leg in front? The foot wrapped behind you is there, that will be the foot that will be manipulating the toes of. So that's why the foot is behind. The foot is wrapped behind. If you need to sit higher on a cushion, that might be easier for some of you. You could also do this from a chair, however you can reach your toes. And then, oh, you'll have to take off your socks. Sorry, Michiganders. You have to take off your sock and get hold of your little toe and begin to move it, the toe that's behind you. And just move it up towards the ceiling a few times. Move it up towards the ceiling a few times. You can turn around and watch and see. And then bend it forward and back, forward and back. And how many joints do you perceive that you have in your little toe? How many joints are there? Do you know? So there's two. There's two joints. Very tiny. And then could you take hold of your toe and lightly pull it and twist it a bit, and think that where you're twisting it from is the root. The joints will not like to rotate very much. They probably won't rotate at all, but you could rotate a little bit right and left. Think of it coming from the root where the toe joins the metatarsal. And then in your own timing, go through each toe with this process. If you need to be in a different position to access your foot, that's fine. But go through each toe, bending it, spreading it away from its brothers and sisters. Just each individual, treat it like an individual. And take your time with it, because your toes probably have been neglected. And the heavy boots being all clumped together and cold all winter. That's a meditation on your tootsies. And then when you are either tired of being in that position or you finished all your toes, then take a rest on your back. And when you go to rest, scan with your attention through your toes. Do they feel different? Have you awakened there's the sensation of your toes to yourself? Because there's this triangulation that's happening as we manipulate ourselves. Your hand is manipulating your toes, and you're aware of that. Your toes are being manipulated by your fingers, and your toes are aware of that. And you are aware of yourself. And so within this triangulation, we get a better body map. We get a more complete sense of ourselves. And if you're resting, then just begin to wiggle your toes of your right foot and feel how well can you differentiate the toes one from another, one from another, without help or assistance from your hand. Can you move the little toe out to the side? Can you feel it spreading away and towards the outer border? So for some of you, this might be the easiest toe to move, and it relates to the heel. The little toe and the next toe, they're hooked into the heel. The big toe is different. You might find it easier to move it up and down than to spread it left and right. And then there's those two toes next to the big toe that are quite difficult to maneuver because of the way they hook into the metatarsal. They're just not designed to differentiate very much. And then could you bring yourself to sit? And here's where you may need your, and take your body cream, your coconut oil, your olive oil, whatever you've got there, and just begin to grease up your toes a bit. Give some love. Put some lotion on your toes, in between each toe, around the metatarsal of the toe you've been, of the foot you've been working with, of the foot you've been working with. And feel the relationship of your hand to your foot receiving the care and being aware of it, and you being aware of yourself, observing yourself, attending to yourself. And now whichever foot you are caring for, with the same hand, and you may need to apply a little bit of lotion to that hand, but can you begin to, just with the little finger, insert from the top, from the front, the little finger in between each toe, one at a time. So it'll be, if you're working with your right foot, it'll be your right hand. So we're going to get the same side. So just the little finger gets to explore each crevice of each toe. Just slide right in there. And go carefully and go slowly, because you may have had COVID toe, you may have had an injury. The toes are not used to being spread so far. So we go slow. And then when you've gone through all of your toes with the little finger, go with the next finger. So the toes get they get an experience of widening a little bit more. And your finger gets to experience the space of each toe. And then the middle finger, when you've gone through all that, you'll go with each finger and including your thumb through each digit. And when you're finished with that, you can take a rest. So take your time, take all the time you need. It's introducing to your toes the idea that they can spread wide, that they can individuate. Stephanie's not here. I'm not sure that's even a word. And if you're resting again, notice the feeling, the sensation, not just in the toes, but in your fingers of that same hand as well. You start to get a correlation. We're getting a co-relationship of the foot to the hand, the fingers to the toes. Maybe there's some residual memory. And again, wiggle your toes and see if you can differentiate them a little more clearly. Maybe you have a little bit more, I don't know, clearer picture. You can sense that you have actually 5 toes. Assuming everyone here has 5 toes. I once taught a class, I had planned a foot class. And someone walked in, and when I said, take off your shoes, she had no feet. I wouldn't have known it. She walked right into class and sat down. Just come to sit again. And stand your foot that you've been working with, and from the top, begin to, and with the help of your other hand, begin to interlace your fingers in between your toes from the top of the foot, from the front of the foot. So you might need to use your other hand to spread your toes and insert each digit somehow. So you've got this claw interspaced in between. And if you need to take some more body lotion to slip, and you might not get to the root of your fingers, you might just get the tips of your fingers through. Let's see if you can catch hold of your foot like this. And once you have a grip on your foot like this, what could you do with that? So you're linked now. You're linked to your foot. So what could you do with that? You could slide the foot away from you and drag it back, staying interlaced. So the rest of you is following, and you're rocking on the pelvis. So it's the same, oops, Dorothy said, it's the same hand. This is the same hand, Dorothy. Yeah, there you go. Oops, got it. Yeah, interlace. I know she's got long hands and long fingers and long toes. You could maybe move the foot in a circle. You could make a rowing movement with the foot. It could spin around on a record, but go slowly so you can sense, I mean, this is now we're bringing the pelvis into play, the shoulder, the back, everything. And you might even begin to play with interchanging the position of your elbow relative to your knee. So you could somehow bring your elbow to the outside of your knee to the inside of the elbow, while you're still holding your foot. You might raise the foot into the air and move the foot. Where could you move the foot? Where could you move the foot? You're holding it with the same hand. Yeah, where could you move it? You can roll onto your back and come back to sitting. You can do anything. But where could you, just playing with this connection. The one thing that stays constant is your hand and your toes. You're linked. And just play with it. What could you do? Raise the leg up in the air and roll back. How do you come back? Make sure everything's clear behind you if you're going all the way back. And now notice where your pinky is. Now, where is your pinky? Is it in between the little toe and the next toe, or is it on the outside? And if you change and bring your little pinky to be the pinky, the digit that's on the outside of the foot, it will be a very different grip. A very different grip that affords you different possibilities. Anyone who has worked with martial arts and used a sword knows that the little finger and the next finger are used to control the sword because it hooks into the elbow. And the sword can be manipulated in a unique way. You turn around your little finger. So could you turn around your little finger with your foot? Or turn with your foot around turn with your little finger around your foot. Feel the difference the grip makes in your shoulder. If you try moving your leg around or moving it here and there or sliding it away and bringing it back. It's quite different when you have the little finger on the outside of the foot. Yeah, yeah, looks like some. And oh, yeah, let's take a rest. And sense the memory. Is there a memory in your fingers, in your toes, that your toes remember your fingers? And your fingers remember your toes. Could you, in your mind, begin to correlate the little finger to the little toe and the next finger and so on, that you could correlate the digits of your hand to the digits of that foot? You make a neurological connection. And then come to stand for a moment. Bring yourself up to standing and see, feel, sense if anything has changed about your standing on that foot. On that foot. What do your proprioceptors tell you? Is that foot, which foot do you prefer now? Which foot do you feel more secure on? Or are you able to employ the toes of that foot now? But you're aware of how they are such an important part of our balance. You move a little here and a little there, the toes start to awaken. And come back down on the floor. And so every joint in our bodies, we have what's called proprioceptive receptors, or sometimes they're called mechanoreceptors. And when these receptors are awake, they provide us with significant information regarding our orientation. So there's 4 sets of receptors. There's one set. The first set, they tell you where you are. They tell you where you are. And then there's a second set of receptors. They tell you, are you moving and in what direction? Are you moving and in what direction? And third set of receptors tell you if you've changed direction. And then there's the pain receptors. And so we are awakening all these receptors, and anyone that's had an injury to their foot, to their limbs, these receptors, they go to sleep. They actually go to sleep. And so because you're in a state of compensation, and the compensation is to prevent further injury. So it's a good thing, this compensation. But we have to awaken the receptors, and to awaken them, it takes our attention. It takes our time and attention and our awareness. Otherwise, what we end up doing is building all our movements on top of compensations as the injury heals. Lord knows we don't want to do that. And even if we have done that, and we've all done that, we've all had injuries and we've built our recovery on top of them, all we have to do is tune in, take some time, be gentle and be aware, and introduce some movement, some awareness. Come to sit and stand that foot, whichever foot you've been working with. Sit in a way that the foot can stand, and that you can stand the same hand next to it, maybe on the outside, right next to it. And so now you can visually make the connection between your little finger and your little toe. Can you raise your little finger from the floor and raise your little toe? And go through each of your fingers and each of your toes. It's like a game. Could you press? Do the opposite, press the fingers into the floor and press this corresponding toe. Make that link. And if you smile just a little tiny bit, does that help? Take out the striving. Striving is bringing the past into the present. So stay present fully. And then maybe you can begin to play with different patterns. You can do a wave. And there's those two toes next to the big toe. They're funny. They're kind of like a, I don't know, it reminded me of an antenna of a bug. Can you feel how the little toe relates somehow to the heel? So if there's been an injury to the heel, then that little toe is going to be asleep. take a rest on your back, unless you're really having a good time. And now can you correlate the movement of your fingers of that hand a little better to the toes of that foot? Feel how that's the side of your body is lying on the floor of the side you've been working with. The side of your face. How your leg lies on the floor. And then come to sit and wrap your other foot behind, and let's do the other side. So we definitely don't want to be one-sided after this. But you might have felt that as you were lying, there was some information being transferred. Some information being transferred already onto the other side. So with one foot wrapped behind you, or however you're navigating this, begin to spread and flex and extend and rotate and pull, and even take the toe around in a circle, and draw a circle with each digit. Because each individual toe, where it joins the front of the metatarsal. Give each toe its respect and time and care. And then once you've gone through all your digits on that side, go ahead and put some cream on. And if you brought your nail file, no, just kidding. And as you're lathering up your foot and sliding around there, you can care for your metatarsals and your dry, cracked heels. And then begin to insert the little finger, just the little finger. Slide it in and out between each toe. Sit in whatever position you need to sit in. But use the same hand as foot. Same hand as foot. You can use your other hand to help your toes spread if you need to. And then go through each digit, each finger, which is a little thicker. Just introducing the idea to the toes that they can get a little wider. They can get a little wider. And once each of your toes has had the chance to experience a widening and being introduced to the feeling of each finger, you could begin to play with interlacing your fingers with your toes from the top. And note where you put the pinky, on the inside or on the outside. And with both, play with both these options, the pinky on the inside, the pinky on the outside, but from there, begin to move around. You can get pretty creative. You can row a boat. You can make Ferris wheel circles. You can make circles in the plane of a record player. You could make circles in the plane of the wall, the plane of the floor. You could roll to sit. You could roll to lie on your side. There's many things you could do. And then change the grip. Change the grip of the hand and try those things again. And feel what's different having the pinky on the, be able to wrap around the outside of the foot or having it tucked in between the little toe and the next toe. It's very different for the shoulder. And occasionally check in, do a little tiny smile will relax your whole system. Just a little tiny, just widen the corners of your mouth, widen the corners of your eyes. That'll slow you down. And then let's take a rest and gently disengage your fingers from your toes. And feel what you feel. What's the residual feeling of you have in your fingers, your toes? Could you wiggle your fingers of that hand and wiggle your toes? And can each digit relate to its brother or sister toe, its corresponding toe? And then come to sit when you're ready and stand that foot in front of you where you can see it. And place your hand next to it on the inside or on the outside. I don't know, maybe even on top of it. And can you move the little finger and move the little toe? And the ring finger and the next, and can you differentiate the toes? You can use your fingers to teach your toes. Let's give a little smile now and then. Notice your breathing. Are you in a comfortable posture? Can you be light? It's like very focused, but in a light way. And sometimes if you play with the idea of moving to a different position, like you're observing yourself doing this. Make a wave, play with different patterns. Spreading, you can spread your fingers, spread your toes. But how each toe relates to a finger. And then when you've had enough of that, then take a rest. Now think about your toes, the spaces in between your toes getting very, very wide. Maybe think that you have a huge feet in your mind's eye, and the spaces in between the toes are large. Large spaces in between your toes, your big feet. And that they're very malleable, very easily manipulated, very responsive to your touch. And then keeping with this idea that the space in between your toes is so large, can you come to sit? You might need to employ some more body cream, but now can you begin to interlace your toes? Use your fingers to insert, push, pull, encourage. This is not as easy as it sounds. Interlace your toes. It's like wrapping a present. Now, some of you may not be able to interlace your toes, so you could just interlace each finger of your hand in between the corresponding toe. So you have both hands interlaced with both feet. And now if you have your toes interlaced, this is an interesting predicament, isn't it? So then could you lift your legs in the air and make circles and roll back and forth and a little here and a little there? Do you even need to hang on or slide your feet away from you and drag them back with your toes interlaced? Yeah, exactly. If your feet come apart, try the non-habitual interlacing. Okay. Take a rest on your backs. Now you can think about those receptors. You move your toes, they tell you that they're moving. The receptors, these proprioceptors, tell you your toes are moving and in what direction. You have a better sense of that, those sets of receptors. The first set tells you where your toes are. The second set, that they're moving and in what direction. The third set, when they change direction. When you change direction. Have you awakened them of the pain or the pain receptors there? Did you manage to bypass those a bit? And then bring yourself onto your feet. And sense you're standing now. Some of you look really much more solid. Feel the role that your toes play in your balance. If you shift a little here, a little there. Which direction you go when you change direction. You move a little forward into the foot, a little back into the heel. And now, if you were to raise yourself up onto your toes and lower down, how different? How different is that? You have a different sense of whatever you have a different sense of. That you actually have toes. And then you could lift and lower, lift and lower, lift and lower. Softly, softly, like you're on a trampoline. The webbing of your feet. Yeah. Now that streams up into the hip joints. And then you can move about, and it's 11 o'clock straight up if you need to go. I wish you a beautiful weekend. If you'd like to stick around and unmute yourself, share what you experienced down there in your feet. Oh, Dorothy's having a good time raising herself up onto her toes. She must be 6 feet tall when she does that.
This was a lot of fun. I have big gaps in my toes like I do in my hands. I've never tried to interlace my toes before, but I did it. It was hilarious.
Isn't that cool?
Like, they're stuck.
So being next to her, I have a vision of it, but I don't have a personal experience.
I have great gaps in my brain, I think. I didn't think it was possible to interlace my toes. I can't even bring my soles together, so I didn't try until the end. Then I did bring them together and just focused on meeting pad to pad. All of a sudden, my first two toes were interlaced.